Mr. Ganju, I should say also Mrs. Ganju, members of this Miami Indian community. I'm privileged to be here and see you all, meet with you and exchange some ideas. I'll make a presentation on the topic, and then if you have any questions that we have to answer. Heritage is a legacy of customs, traditions, history. It's also part of your geographical scenery. So it is a multidimensional concept. And if one were to say Indian heritage, it is distinguishable from all other heritages on a number of accounts. We are the longest civilization continuing civilization in the world. All other civilizations, there were 46 civilizations that have been recorded in history. 45 have terminated. Example, Egypt is now a new civilization of the Islamic world. Greece is a new civilization of the Christian world. They have no connection except you can see ruins. But this Indian civilization, by which I mean Hindu civilization, is a continuing civilization, unbroken. And we have to go back and see why India has survived. And it's not survived because nobody told us or we were living in a cocoon. We were brutally attacked. We were ruled by foreigners for centuries. 800 years of Islamic rule, 200 years of Christian rule in the form of British imperialist rule. And yet, you are still a predominantly Hindu country. When I was teaching at Harvard, I had a student from Saudi Arabia who one day asked for time after class. And after class he asked me a question which he said his university in Jeddah had asked him to ask me. And he said that we want to know that how is it that after 800 years of Islamic rule and 200 years of Christian rule, India is still such a large predominantly, that is over 80% Hindu population. So I was taken aback by the question. I said, could you explain why you're asking me this question? So he said, we are studying Islamic history. We found that when Islam went to Iran, in 15 years they converted the whole of Iran, which was Zoroastrian till then, into 100% Muslim country by the usual technique which Islamic invasions have employed elsewhere and employed in India too, of brutality, killing, offering a choice, either you're dead or you convert, etc., etc. Next to Iran is were two civilizations of Mesopotamia and Babylon, which now is known as Iraq. In 17 years it became 100% Muslim. Egypt became 100% Muslim in 21 years. Europe became 100% Christian in 50 years. But here you have 800 years of Muslim rule and 200 years of Christian rule, and still you are over 80% Hindu. What is the secret? That's what he wanted to know. Of course, Taliban nowadays says that Hindustan is a unfinished chapter of Islamic history. Well, they'll find out who's going to be finished in the end. But these rectals, the hardline Islamic historians. And therefore, this heritage is under attack in a number of ways. During these 1,000 years, let me tell you that this propagation amongst our youth, that we were a country who were always brutalized, whoever came here, they ruled here, India was all the time conquered. The British used to say, well, we are one more conquest of India. But the fact is that India, or the Hindus in particular, kept the struggle going. Whether they lost or won, it didn't matter. And they were recognized as heroes in Indian history by the Indian community, the Hindu community, whether you won or lost. Take Rana Pratap. He was reduced to eating chapati made out of grass. And yet he held on. His cousin brother Mansingh came from Jaipur and said to him, then I have a message from Akbar. You accept him as Badshah of India, and he will return everything to you, all your palaces, everything, like he had done with me. So what is your difficulty? Just you accept him as Badshah of India, which he is. So Rana Pratap said, no, I will not accept. So he said, what, you're going to spend the rest of your life eating ghas ki roti? So Rana Pratap said, when he further added Mansingh, what will you get out of this? He said, what I will get out of this is that future generations, others will name their sons as Rana Pratap, but on your name will spit. Now you take the case of Rani Jhansi. She also lost in battle. Subhash Bose. In Tamil Nadu, Kattaboman. In Karnataka, we had Rani Chennamma. You are from Karnataka. So every part of India, every district, people were perpetually in revolt, which is not recorded in our history books. And of course, we had victors also. We had Shivaji, the Vijayanagara Empire, which lasted 300 years and went all the way to the borders of Assam. And despite it lasting 300 years, in the history books you will only see one small paragraph. That in South India there was a empire called Vijayanagara. From Akbar to Aurangzeb is only 150 years. But one chapter for each Badshah, you see. Being given credit which they didn't deserve. So, I would say that, you see, this glory of our history, of our heritage, we have to first learn in order to preserve it. We were the richest country in the world. At one stage, that is as late as 1200 AD. India accounted for 52% of the world GDP. Today it only accounts for 7%. India and China accounted together more than 50% of the world GDP right up to 1750. All our progress in science is now recognized slowly. If you read George Gamau's book, 1, 2, 3, Infinity, or George Werner Brown, George Werner Brown, who came from Germany and laid the foundation for rocketry in America, he begins his book by saying, we owe rocketry to the Hindus of India. Einstein said the Hindus of India taught us how to count. Because we invented the zero, we invented the decimal, we invented algebra, which was called algebra because the Arabs took it from us and then the Europeans took it from the Arabs. So there was no area of human life where we were not so far as it is possible. And we were so far ahead that people came from all over the world to buy goods from India. If you ever come to Harvard University in the suburb area called Belmont, there is a huge lake called Fresh Pond. And you know, they have put a road around the pond so you can go for a morning walk. So when I went around the morning walk, I noticed a signboard which was standing there on the edge of the pond. Here stood Tudor Ice Company, which exported ice to India. And the date for this is 1636. So I was a bit surprised, why would America export ice to India? So I went to Google and discovered there was one book about Tudor Ice Company. I read it and I cross-checked it and I found that every year from Salem, Massachusetts, boats used to go to India, to Kanchipuram. And in Kanchipuram they would buy cloth and spices and everything and come back. One day the king of the Chola king of Kanchipuram called them and said, you know, are you being looked after? Are you comfortable, etc.? Is there anything I can do for you? So they said, we have one complaint that we have to come with empty ships. We buy your goods and go back. Why can't you buy something from us? So the king said, I can't, you know, India produces everything. But, you know, there's nothing I can buy from you. They said, no, you can buy something from us. That is when the king said, I hear that, you know, I have never seen ice in my life. Because Kanchipuram is a hot place, no? And I have to go to Himalayas. That's a long distance for me to go. I'd like to see ice. So I hear in your country, ice falls naturally from the sky. So if you bring ice, I will buy it. So in that fresh pond, it freezes during the winter. They used to cut the lake, put sawdust and take it all the way to India. And so the first export from United States to India was ice. That was the status of United States compared to India. So I am saying to you, this is the heritage we have. Farsian, the Chinese traveler, he came to India, lived 11 years, traveled all over India, and he wrote a book saying that the most significant quality of a Hindu, he said, is his honesty. He said, there is absolutely no corruption in India. People don't lock their doors when they go out in the night. And he said, if you go to their house and leave something behind by mistake, they will chase you and find you and return it to you. Never I have seen anywhere else in the world like this. The same thing is repeated by Yuan Chuang, who came 700 years later from China, from Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama also records this. And right up till about 1700, we find that the significant remarks made about India included the honesty of the Indian people. Today, if some visitor comes, he's not going to say that. What has happened? If a people could have been so rich, prosperous, honest, then what has transformed? So I begin by saying that in order to know how to preserve your heritage, you must know what your heritage is. And because of Macaulay and the curriculum which Jawaharlal Nehru continued and all the secular people have continued it, we do not know our heritage. We have just broad ideas. Many of the things I'm telling you today, we are today respecting in India because the Americans have found respect for it. Yoga used to be laughed at in the 1950s, at least amongst the educated English educated people. But then when the Jane Fonda and all took to yoga, we changed our mind. About 20 years ago, NASA made an astounding declaration. They said that in the most advanced area of computer science, namely artificial intelligence, we find that Sanskrit is the most computer compliant language, perfect for the computer, and henceforth learning of Sanskrit is compulsory for doing advanced work in artificial intelligence. Today it is being taught. Secretly, Americans are learning Sanskrit. And of course, then Sanskrit will become fashionable in India also. But the fact is that I want to tell you that here is a language invented how many centuries ago? But today it is being seen as the most modern language with the script, the Devanagari script, as the most phonetically accurate alphabets, and this we invented so long ago. So you will find in almost every dimension, India had shown to the world. I mean, I don't have to go to medicine to show that plastic surgery was known, surgery was invented in India. This whole new craze that has come in the Western world, which you see in Kerala for Ayurveda, is a new thing. And what I am afraid is that when people now talk disparagingly about Hinduism in India, someone said that the moment you utter the word, I think Rahul said, the moment you utter the word Hindu, you are regarded as some kind of retrograde. But very soon that will change. Because recently, the Hollywood's best known actress, Julia Roberts, came to India in 2007. And she went to an ashram, told the Swamiji there that, I have millions of dollars, I have won every Oscar award that's possible for a woman, lady actress, an actress to win, but I'm not happy. So please teach me how to be happy. So he asked her to stay for a minimum of 1 week. And she was so transformed at the end of 1 week that when she went back to Hollywood, she held a press conference with her son, with her 2 children and husband, and declared that she has finally found happiness and therefore she is converting to Hinduism, and today she is a practicing Hindu. I have no difficulty in accommodating other religions in India in this grand enterprise to preserve our heritage. First of all, look at the heritage of India, look at the heritage of Hindus. The Parsis came running from Iran, being persecuted. They went to many other countries, they came to India also. We received them, we built their fire temple for them, and they are lived in a community totally in peace with the Hindus. When the British left India, they told the Parsis that like Anglo-Indians, we will also give you some reservations in parliament and in education. So they said, no, we have no problems with Hindus, you go, we will be quite well with them. The Jews came to India after being persecuted everywhere. And we built their synagogues, which you can still see in Bombay and Cochin. And when Israel was founded, the first resolution after the founding of Israel passed by Parliament was a resolution saying, thank you India, you are the only country in the world where Jews were not persecuted. That's the tradition. Even Muslims who came, the Arab traders in Kerala, they wanted to settle down, we managed them, that's why they called Mopla in English and Mapile in Malayalam. And they settled here. The Syrian Christians came, they also settled, no problem. When India was 100% Hindu, no religious group, other religious group had any other problem. So how can you say Hindu cannot, this is communal, I don't understand, it's a contradiction in term. If you're a Hindu, you have to be secular because you accept that all religions lead to God. We don't say all religions are equal, by the way. Don't confuse that. I mean, we say that all religions lead to God. We will go by turnpike and you will go by the village road. So we have there's no other religion which says that all religions are equal, or all religions lead to God. They say no, it's only our religion. Christianity will call you a pagan, bought by the devil, all kinds of things they will say. And converting you would be considered as saving you. You may not want to be saved, but they are hell-bent on saving you because you're not a Christian. The same thing with Islam. You're a kafir. At worst, you can be a dhimmi, which means you do menial work. So, in that circumstance, what is the religion, what is the heritage you want to protect? A religion which is so broad, which recognizes you can also pursue religion in your way, we will pursue it in our way. That's the Hindu tradition that we want to protect. We need today a renaissance, not a revival, not a ossification of Hindu and then protect that as a heritage. We are not looking for an archaeological or a ancient monument, to make in Hinduism into some kind of a frozen ideology. We certainly want to change certain things. One of the things we have to change in our Renaissance is this division on Varna basis of Hindus. Originally, when Varna was conceptualized by two rishis, one was Rishi Bhrigu and the other was Rishi Bhardwaj. They sat together and discussed how can you create a stable society. At that stage, Rishi Bhrigu suggested that in a society there are four dimensions of power. One is knowledge. So it's a source of power. The second is weapons, another source of power. Third is wealth, which is a source of power. And fourth is land. These are four sources of power. And Bhrigu said that the best way to stabilize society is make sure that this is not concentrated in one hand. So these four should be distributed such that no person will have access to more than one source of power. So those who had knowledge or chose to acquire knowledge, they would not have weapons, they would not have wealth, they will not have land. And that was elevated to the highest status, which was called the Brahmin or the Pandit. Today you have Brahmins who are executive director in Bata Shoe Company. It is not, that was not, the idea was discipline. We have, there's nothing wrong, there's no law which forbids a person born in a Brahmin family from being a Brahmin, but he must practice that thing. So I said, let it be this ossification that is taking place. You see, the Brahmin was the policy maker because he had knowledge. So the king could not make a decision whether to go to war or not to go to war. King had no right to dispense justice. So therefore the king had to bow before the Brahmin and get his concurrence. Europe was not like that. Europe was a monarchy in the proper sense of the word. We were not a monarchy in the proper sense of the word. And wealth was never the determinant of social status. In fact, it was fairly down in the social status. Only if you donated philanthropy, then only you became socially, you were raised socially. So this was the structure, and it was not with birth. And you can see that by looking at the past antecedents of the rishis. Veda Vyasa wrote the Mahabharata, great rishi, but his mother was a fisherwoman. She was a Brahmin. Valmiki was born in a Dalit family. It's only now we are beginning to accept that. He became a Maharishi, he wrote the Ramayana. Kalidasa was moving around the forest cutting trees. And he was so stupid, he was sitting at the wrong end of the branch and cutting the tree. And he then transformed into a great poet and a Maharishi. Then you have Vishwamitra, the Rishi of Rishis. And his parents were Kshatriyas. So that itself is proof. Of course, it's Gita very clearly stated by Lord Krishna. It's only with gunas connected. Varna is connected with gunas and not with your birth. Ravan was a Brahmin, by the way. Very few people know that. He was a Pandit. He was not a Lanka Pandit. He was actually born in the borders of Delhi, which is now called as Noida. And his wife was born, Mandotri was born in Meerut. But Ravan went to Mansarovar. He did tapas, and Shiva, as he is called, Bholanath, very easy to please. He gave him a var, which he used to conquer Sri Lanka, because Guber had built it into the most developed part of this area, of the entire South Asia. And even today there is proof in Mansarovar area. In fact, I argued with the Chinese for 3 years, and finally they agreed to open Kailash Mansarovar, and I was the first one to go to Kailash and Mansarovar after 35 years. On the way, there is a big lake called Rakshasthal, sometimes, or Ravana Haranga. Rakshasthal is actually because Ravan was considered Rakshas, you see. But Ravana Haranga, I asked the local Tibetans, why is this called Ravana Haranga? They said Haranga in Tibetan means Sarovar, lake. Ravan, he said, is somebody who came from India. That's all he knew. So, I was a bit surprised when the British made Ravana into a Dravida king. And this whole Dravidian movement was started by the British, of which today Karunanidhi is the leader. And Karunanidhi for a long time to understand that all northerners are Aryans, we are Dravidians, and we Dravidians, our great lord is Ravan, and this man from North India, Ram, came and killed him. This is the kind of junk that was being taught, thanks to the British. But the truth is not totally different. I once had a discussion with Karunanidhi, and I said that do you know that Ravan was a Brahmin? He said, no, that's not correct. Then I brought out a Tamil Ramayana, which is called Kamban Ramayana, and showed it to him. Finally got convinced. And he stopped talking about Ravan and stopped doing Ravan Leela. He used to perform Ravan Leela. We had Ram Leela and he had Ravan Leela. And of course it was a very pornographic version that he gave, because that's the kind of mentality he had. But he never gave up on Ram. He said Ram was a northerner. First he said he's a Brahmin. I said no, he is not a Brahmin, he is a Kshatriya. Anyway, he said northerner. And he is so much against Ram that he was insistent on putting a canal through and cutting through Ram Setu, which I had to object, which I had to go to Supreme Court and get an order first to stay the project, and now of course the project is dead and I'm just waiting for I'm just waiting for the court to declare it as a national monument so that all of us can go to Ram Setu. Visit now is easy. It's not easy today to visit it because you have to go. There are no in the Rameshwaram. After Rameshwaram, there's no proper road, but all that has to be done. You can see Ram Setu even today, and it is constructed more or less in the same way as is described in Valmiki. So one day I was arguing in court, and the press headline was Swamy defends Ram Setu. So Karunanidhi got upset and he said, who is Swamy to call this Ram Setu? Ram built it? Was he an engineer? Which engineering college did he go to? I mean, just to debase Ram. Next day he fell ill. And he had to be admitted to hospital. It was a serious illness. And the hospital's name was Ramchandra Medical Hospital. So I wrote him, it's lucky that at least Ram has got an MBBS and you will be okay. But see, these traditions have always been devalued. Even the word Dravidian is not a description of a community. This is all the British concoction. You go back to its lexicography, and you find that the first time ever the word Dravida was used was by Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara went to North India and he challenged Mandara Mishra to a debate. Those days, this was called Shastrats, where you have a debate. If you lose, you convert to my religion. So there was Buddhism, the Uttarmemsa school, lots of things, but Hinduism was had gone to a great decline, and Shankaracharya wanted to revive it. So he passed through Tamil Nadu, he converted all the Hindus and everybody back to Hinduism, Buddhist. So when he went to Bihar, he had to have a debate with Mandara Mishra. And Mandara Mishra asked him, who are you? And he said, I'm Dravida Shishu. So he asked, what do you mean by that? So he said, Shishu, of course, everybody knew, means child. But Dravida is a sandhi of two words, Tra and Vid, means where the three oceans meet. That means Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean. So it's a regional term. And the British changed it into a race. Now you see, you find our modern science is telling us we Indians are all the same. The variations you see in Indians is all due to weather. It is not connected with race. Race is only one basis, DNA. And DNA studies now published in a lot of reputed journals in Houston, in Cambridge, the Journal of Genetics, in India, in Mysore, in many places the research is published. And it all shows only one thing, that all Indians have the same DNA from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. There is no variation on the DNA structure. That is, we are all from this area only. Earlier on we thought somebody came from Africa, no. All dismissed now. We are original to the area which is called the Indian subcontinent. And if you are a Brahmin and a scheduled caste, also your DNA is the same. If you are Muslim and Hindu, your DNA is the same. Anyone living in this subcontinent, his DNA is the same. And this I also tested it out once, because there's a politician in Bombay called Raj Thakre. He had run a campaign that, all these Biharis have come and take our Marathi jobs away. And these UP taxi walas are the most rotten ones of them. Let them go back to their own place. which is UP. So I told a friend of mine that, you know Raj Thackeray well. Can you get me a sample of his hair? Because you can get DNA by hair also. So he said, yeah, I go to the same hairdresser that he goes. So I'll get you. So one day he brought me a bottle full of his hair. Then I gave 10 rupees to a UP taxi driver and said, you give me your sample of your hair. Let me cut a little of your hair. He thought I was crazy, but for 10 rupees he was ready to give me a piece. I sent both these hair samples to Hyderabad Microbiological Research Institute, and there got it tested, and it turned out that Raj Thakuray's DNA and the UP taxiwala's DNA was the same. And I publicly announced it also. I said Raj Thackeray has come from UP because his DNA is the same as the UP taxiwala, and I am willing to challenge him. Let him come. I brought a portable DNA testing equipment. I am ready to test it right here in front of everybody. And since then, you don't hear much about Raj Thackeray speaking. This division must be deleted from our memory in order to, recognize our true heritage. I mean, those days people used to go walking. People used to receive them. If you are different people, do you think you will be received well? So I think we have to therefore examine this question, because we have a great tradition of never conquering any country with bullets. We went to Southeast Asia. By ideas we made them all as our culture. You can go to Indonesia, you can see that. China, you can see that. There are many things that we are now thinking is foreign, it is actually Indian. Take for instance this karate or jiu-jitsu. That is not Japanese. There was a monk he was a Mahayana Buddhism monk, which is practically Hinduism as opposed to Hinayana. He was in Kanchipuram. He went to China. He went to and settled in a place called Shaolin, and there he found that the emperor's people were troubling. He converted a lot of people to Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, but he found that the emperor was hostile, so he wanted to cut them and butcher them, and he was committed to non-violence. So in Shaolin he invented this karate. It was called in Chinese wushu. When you write wushu in Chinese character and read it as a Japanese, it is karate. So that's how it became karate. And furthermore, he had called his Buddhism as dhyana yoga. And the Chinese couldn't pronounce dhyan, so they put it as chan. And chan in Chinese character, if you read as a Japanese, it is Zen. So Zen Buddhism is actually Dhyana Buddhism, which is actually Dhyana Yoga. So I thought this is all, when I read it in some Indian book, I thought this is all, nationalist Indian, patriotic Indian must be, but I have it cross-checked. But I was surprised, in 1936, the president of Beijing University, Dr. Hush, was invited to Harvard. Harvard was celebrating its 300th year, 1936. 1636 was founded, 1936 they celebrated. They invited scholars from all over the world. And they invited from China, and they told them that you speak on a topic of your liking. And he spoke. He wrote a paper which is published by Harvard, which is there in my book, which I have recently published, called Hindutva and National Renaissance, whose lecture topic was the Indianization of China, a case of peaceful cultural borrowing. And he describes, you see, that the Chinese swallowed everything that the Hindus came and gave. He said it is not even Buddhism, they think it's Buddhism, but it's Mahayana Buddhism is practically Hinduism. So he describes how the Chinese customs, attitudes, family relationship, father-son relationship, mother-daughter relationship, all are inspired by Hindus. Of course, he is not very happy because he was a Christian. So he was saying that we have to remove all these influences before China can stand up. Because China those days was down. It was 1936. So we have this heritage which we have to protect. How do we protect it? Well, I would say that first few things have to be clear. What is India? What do you mean by saying I'm an Indian? I ask most people, what do you mean when you say you're an Indian? They say, well, I'm a citizen of India. I said, what do you mean by citizen of India? He said, I have an Indian passport. That's a technicality. An Indian is an identity. An identity means that there is some idea about India for which you are willing to set aside all your personal aspirations for the greatest of that concept. The second thing is that you are conscious that the people living in this country are your near and dear compared to anybody else, anywhere else. So that's what Indian identity means, and I have defined that identity as Hindu, and in order to include others who are not Hindus, I have broadened that term and called it Hindustan. Hindustan is the identity of India. Bharat is the concept of our republic, but Hindustan is our identity, which means that I am either a Hindu or I proudly accept that my ancestors are Hindus. If the Muslim accepts that his ancestors are Hindus, which is the truth, I told them, a number of Muslim scholars from Deoband, that I'm ready to have your DNA test done. If you want, I can call them just now to do it. They all said no. I asked, one day Farooq Abdullah told me, you know, I am a Gaud Saraswat Brahmin's descendant. So I said, why don't you say this publicly? He said, are you crazy? The mullah will kill me. Privately, Muslims accept this. Christians, more or less, will accept. So, we are Hindustani, or India is Hindustan, if we accept that we are Hindus or our ancestors are Hindus. Now, in America, there's a professor called at Harvard, he's dead now, Professor Samuel Huntington. He wrote the book on this clash of civilizations also, which became very famous. He wrote a book called Who Are We? And he, after a big book, and he comes to the conclusion that we are American means that we are white, Anglo-Saxon, Christian, English-speaking population. So in one of the seminars he was quizzed very severely, and they said, there are Mexicans here, there are Hindus here, there are Muslims here, what about all that? He said, that's all right, they are US citizens. But America is, the identity of America is it's a white, Anglo-Saxon, English-speaking Christian population. That's the identity. British Prime Minister Cameron was asked in the middle of December by the BBC last year, what is the identity of Britain now? He said it's a Christian country. Then the BBC said, but there are so many Hindus, Muslims, Jews, and maybe, but the identity of India, of Britain, is Christian. I don't see why we cannot say the identity of India is Hindustan. And if a Muslim openly acknowledges with pride that my ancestors are Hindus, which is a fact, which scientific evidence shows that it's a fact. All DNA studies on Hindus and Muslims show that they are the same DNA. Then we can treat them as part of our family. If you really want genuine Hindu-Muslim unity, then the Muslims must accept this. What is the problem essentially with Islam? People ask me, are you against Islam? I said, no, I'm not against Islam. I like Islam because they're very clear-minded. I don't like Hinduism because they're all confused people. It's like, it is like Arjuna sitting, whether I shall kill my brother or not kill my brother, in the middle of the war. Till Krishna had to explain to him. When Karna chariot was stuck and he was bending down to fix the wheel, Krishna says, kill him. He said, how can I kill him? That is not, that's not Kshatriya-like. I mean, the man is bending over. So he said, yes, when you were taking the sari of your wife, that time where was the morality? Kill him now. So, I mean, the Hindus are all the time, ye ho jayega to wo kya ho jayega. One day asked me that my wife is pregnant, and what happens if, because she had been through a nuclear reactor, what happens if the child is born with a twisted nose? Who will marry her? I said, then don't get pregnant, that's all. You see, you have to take risks in your life. So I am saying essentially this, that the Muslim, the day he accepts that his ancestors are Hindus, and he accepts it with pride, then he can be part of this Hindustan family. If he doesn't, then what does it mean? That his ancestors are Gori, Ghazni? What does it mean by that? So this is the one issue which needs enforcement for preserving our strategy, our heritage. I mean, people say, no, everybody has contributed, we are now a composite society. But actually, Ganga is also a composite river. How many rivers go and join Ganga? But the Ganga's name does not change. It is still Ganga all the way down to the Bay of Bengal. You see? The essential problem in dealing with Islam rather, is his theology, which is very clear. You will find that when Muslims are in minority, what they demand, they will not agree to the minority when they are in majority. As a minority, they will want masjids to be built, they want azan to be allowed, they want their dadis to be grown, they want their marry 4 women, all these things they will demand. But if the Hindus of Saudi Arabia, and there are many because they have gone there as workers, they want to build a masjid, a temple, no, not at all. They want to celebrate Diwali, no, not at all. Want to do Satyanarayana Puja inside my house? No, not at all. And there's a punishment if you do it. You can't even carry Ramchandraji's photograph in your pocket while going to work. That is what they have there. So you ask a Muslim, in Saudi Arabia, they don't allow our mandirs, why we should allow you masjid? Well, before you ask that, there will be a case filed against you by the government under 153A IPC and saying that you are a communal person, stoking the fire, etc., etc. But Muhammad very clearly laid down 3 things. Laid down one very clear concept of the 3-part division of the world. He said, part 1, Darul Islam, where Muslims are in power and in majority. No minority. They should be either converted or killed. Very clear, at least in Sirah and Hadith it is extremely clear. Even in Quran it is there. That's the concept of kafir that comes there. Second, if the Muslims are in minority but the majority is Rasgullah type, I mean it is not united, then we must go on agitating for more and more. First you ask for removal of the uniform civil code. Then you ask for reservation. You ask for more after that. Ask for holiday on Friday. You know, go on making more and more demands. And the amorphous majority will go on yielding. And ultimately, your idea is through love jihad, through infiltration, so on, to convert that into Darul Islam. This society, which is Muslim minority with a amorphous majority, is called Darul Harab. And finally, there is something called Darul Ahad, where Muhammad propagated the concept of Al-Taqiyah. And that was, he said, if the majority is united, then surrender for the sake of survival. Make any commitment. Let it be temporary, but make any commitment. In Australia, the majority is united. One day, Imam said, I am not happy with the Uniform Civil Code. So, what happened? The Prime Minister of Australia said, if you don't like Uniform Civil Code and you want Sharia, then go look for another country, because in this country you will not get it. Be absolutely sure of that. The next day, all Muslims organizations issued a statement saying that this mullah is a mad fellow, we have nothing to do with it, we are quite happy with the Uniform Civil Code. In the United States also, Uniform Civil Code exists. I mean, there are all kinds of attempts being made, but I don't think it will come. So if the majority is united, they will fall in line. Where they are in majority, and that may be in a small place. In Kashmir, they are in majority. What help they have given to the Hindus there, particularly the Pandit community. In Kerala, they are in majority in one district called Malappuram. Go and see how they treat the Hindus there. Hindus cannot, if the Hindus have property, they cannot sell to anyone but a Muslim. No Hindu can come and buy a property in that district. Sharia runs there. One professor wrote an article, was an English article, exam paper for punctuation marks. And he had lifted that article from a newspaper where some anti-Muhammad remarks were made. So the Sharia court in Malappuram passed a fatwa that his hands should be cut. And when he was going for a walk, his hands were cut. And he was not even a Hindu, he was a Christian. So they are very clear. If you are majority, then Sharia will prevail. Even in a small area like a town panchayat in Tamil Nadu, where the total population of Muslims is only 5% in Tamil Nadu. There in the town panchayat near Vellore, called Mel Visharam, they are in majority. Go and see how they treat the Hindus there. Because their mind is clear. So if we want to preserve our country as a Hindustan, then we have to understand this. Do you know that the Saudi Arabia ambassador told me some time ago, and I checked and found it to be true, that Saudi Arabia does not consider a mosque or a masjid as sacred. They demolish masjids regularly to build roads. How many people know this? I don't think anybody knows this. Recently in Makkah, the Saudi Arabian sheikh or king wanted to build a palace. So they looked over all the areas and found one area, very nice area, but there was a masjid there. It was the masjid which was called Bilal Masjid, where Muhammad used to read namaz. So the Saudi Arabian government issued an order, demolish it. So all the archaeologists and all that said, no, why at least this one you please leave. This is Muhammad, where Muhammad read his namaz. So the Saudi Arabian government issued another circular that such propagation that this masjid should not be demolished because Muhammad read namaz there, is anti-Islam because it is tantamount to idol worship, and we will not permit it in Saudi Arabia. And they demolished it. Can we demolish masjids in our country? By the way, you cannot demolish temples. When I was law minister, I had a case in England where somebody stole a Nataraj statue from here and auctioned it there, or put it up for auction. So I sent our lawyers to argue the matter. We argued in the House of Lords that when a mandir is made or a temple is constructed, we conduct what is called as a prana pratishta puja. And a prana pratishta puja, where you fast for 41 days, God enters the murti. From that day, this temple becomes the owner of the temple becomes that God. I am only trustee. And this argument we used it this time in the Babri Masjid case in Ayodhya in the Allahabad High Court. And the Allahabad High Court has accepted this principle. The British House of Lords also accepted this and directed that the Nataraj statue should be returned back to India. So if a temple is built with Prana Pratishta Puja, it has to be rebuilt. And it remains a temple even if there is no puja going on. I am telling you, all your Kashmiri Pandits, that all your temples will return one day, because that is a fundamental right of yours. So I would say, first is identity. Then we develop a common language, and that ultimately has to be Sanskrit. We must do it the way Shankaracharya did with Pali. He went on introducing more and more. After he defeated all the Buddhist scholars and made them all Shankaracharyas and all that, he then started, the Shishyas wanted to ban Pali. He said, no, just go on adding Sanskrit words. And Pali one day became Sanskrit, because it was all Sanskrit words only. So same way Hindi, go on adding Sanskrit words to it till it becomes Sanskrit. Sanskrit is now computer compliant language. So you want to preserve your heritage, learning Sanskrit is very important. What you NRIs can do here is see that your children get Sanskrit tuition. You yourself, if you can find time to learn it. Sanskrit pronunciation, Sanskrit words produces vibrations in your body which makes a fundamental difference to your whole outlook. So this is another thing that we need to do. There are only two more things and then I will terminate my talk. One is, our heritage is our unique value system. You see, the Sanatan Dharma has given you the most stable outlook. I mean, an outlook which has produced the most stable society. Why is it that Julia Roberts came all the way and found happiness here? It's a question, what should be the attitude to the forces that are working in society? When I was a student at Harvard, my classmate asked me one day that, don't mind my asking you a question, but tell me why you Indians accepted Mahatma Gandhi as your leader. So I said, why, what's wrong with him? He said, the man is not properly dressed. How can you accept a leader who is not properly dressed? So I said, in your country, you have to have well dressed leaders. He said, of course. And I was now talking about 1962. He said, Nixon lost the election because he came before Kennedy without shaving his beard. You know, the 5 o'clock shadow was there and it was used against him. And if you go back to Theodore White's book on the presidential debates, you will find that this is mentioned as the reason why Nixon lost the television debate. All the leaders are very well dressed. You see Obama, his shoes are always shining. But our leaders, whether it is Mahatma Gandhi or Jayaprakash Narayan simplicity in dress has become important. Same thing with the religious leaders. Look at the Pope. He's always in satin gown with diamond necklace, ruby necklace, etc. His cap is full of jewels, you see. But our greatest saints, they have only one piece of balwa around them, you see. The coarsest possible cloth. And they are the most venerated. And so, our society never disapproved of wealth acquisition or material prosperity. But it always said that one, it is not the determinant of social structure. And two, that you must always strive for material prosperity harmonized with spiritual advancement. This philosophy we have to bring back. You want to go corruption to go? Why is corruption taking place? It's because of greed. It's because people think that if you have money, you will have social status. That is the reason why there is corruption. That is the reason why in ancient India we didn't have corruption. If we are able to inculcate this, that money is not everything. I feel sad in a way because when I went the other day to the IIM Ahmedabad to give a lecture to students, very bright students, and asked them that you did all this competitive exam to get into IIM, why? And they all said without exception that we wanted to get a good job. I said, you mean you are not interested in inventory control, finance theory, marketing theory, and you didn't come for that, but you came because you'll get a good job? I said, well, that's the only reason we came. And once we get an IIM MBA chap on us, then our dowry will also go up. Well, you can see that in the matrimonial columns. Say wanted MBA, everybody there for a, so there, I am saying therefore, you want to preserve Indian heritage, then please develop this outlook that making money is not an end in itself. Yes, you can make money. Once you have enough, then donate, make somebody else's life better off. And don't regard a person highly only because he has money. If he has got character, he has got values, he lives simply, then respect him. The final thing I would say is that all this heritage has meaning if you can defend it. We could not defend our heritage. The reason is that our heritage itself was at fault. Because our method of fighting the wars were meant for civilized people, and uncivilized people came and we couldn't meet them. Once they learned our ways of fighting, they changed. Originally, all these people in Sindh and all were beaten up. And in fact, the first defeat Islam suffered was in Sindh from the kings of Gujarat. So, what happened is that we had rules, which are highly civilized rules for warfare. And that is that war will not start till the sun rises in the morning. And the moment the sun sets and there is ceasefire, go back to a tent and go have a good night's sleep. And then wake up in the morning, have a bath and all that, and then come to fight. Second rule was that you will not fight in city population centers and agricultural fields. It will be fought, all the fighting will be in an open Maidan, like Kurukshetra. When Ravan had to fight Ram, he came out of his fort to fight Ram into the open Maidan. He didn't say to Ram, you come inside, I'll see you then. So that is the rule of war. And third is that if you are defeated and you express regret, then return everything and say goodbye to him. Muhammad Ghori was forgiven, I don't know how many times. Some say 16 times, some say more than one itself was bad. Yes, 17 times. 17th time he won, I'm told. So anyway, this forgiving attitude. So that was not suitable. The first king to recognize that this method of warfare will not work with these people was Shivaji, and that's why he was victorious. And in the past we did not recognize. Today we do not recognize what the opponents of India, in what way they are fighting you. They are fighting you through the mind, by telling you wrong history, by making you pessimistic, by making you despondent, by making you think that there's no hope for the country. So if you want to fight, you have to get a new mindset. And mindset is very important, I'm telling you. If we are 120 crore people, that's no big deal if your mindset is not right. There are 1,000 goats in one place, one tiger comes, the majority is with the goats. But who will run? It will be the goats which will run. And strength also is not enough unless your mindset is there. In a circus there will be 5 lions in a pen, and a thin, wiry ringmaster will walk in, and then he'll crack the whip and he said, climb up. They'll all climb up on the bench. Then he said, open your mouth. They'll all open their mouth, and he'll put his head in each one of them. Why don't the lions kill him there? Because they've been brought up from the time of being a cub to obey him. Even though the lions have so much strength. So many times people ask me, you see, why this Manmohan Singh cannot stand up to Sonia Gandhi? He has got the power of the Prime Ministership with him. So I told them that he is like a circus lion, you see. He doesn't know his strength. And incidentally, in Sanskrit, lion is called Singh. So he is a Manmohan Singh, but he is a circus Singh, you see. That's why he is not able to do it. So I am saying that this mind is extremely important. And therefore you must know, we cannot anymore not retaliate for attacks on us. Kashmir, you see, 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits have been driven out from their own country and living in refugee camps or in other forms of misery. Now we should have retaliated. People ask me, what retaliation? Send the Pandits back? No. They sent 500,000 out, you send double that number, 10 lakhs of ex-servicemen, because we got 1 crore ex-servicemen, of which 50 lakhs are even today fighting fit. Let them settle that position there, clean up the place there, so that then the Kashmiri Pandits can go. Today there is a cry for Pannun Kashmir and some colony and all that, but they have to be then treated almost like a enclave, as a concentration camp. That's too much. You break the back of this mentality. And nobody can complain. The other day I went to Srinagar, they asked me, what about 370? I said 370 has already been declared dead letter because the militants drove out the Kashmiri Pandits. They said, how does that affect T370? I said 370 was brought in as a temporary measure, of course, only for the purpose of ensuring that the religious demography or religious composition of Kashmir is not altered by migration. When you have driven out the Kashmiri Pandits, you have altered the democratic. So therefore there is now no reason. In any case, 370 is a temporary measure. It's the only article in the Constitution which does not require a parliamentary 2/3 majority to amend it. All it requires is a presidential notification which has to be drafted by the cabinet. I can assure you that I am pretty sure that there will be a new government in the end of the next election. It will be the NDA government. I suppose that I should be a part of that because Janata Party is a member of that. And I can tell you that Article 370 is the first one to go. And this is not I am telling you here. I went there in Srinagar also said it. They asked me, what about plebiscite? I said plebiscite was promised by Jawaharlal Nehru. It was not a cabinet decision. So you ask Jawaharlal Nehru to give you. So one pressman said, this is not a joking matter. You tell us how we can meet Jawaharlal Nehru. He said, ask any terrorist to arrange for your trip. So and I was surprised to see it was a very large meeting. Yeah, I held it in a hall in Lal Chowk. And then when I came on the footpath, the press was there. I addressed the press at the footpath. You see, and all the people who came to attend, and they were all Muslims. My party, my unit, Janata Party unit is also all of Muslims there. They say only one thing. You remove this uncertainty in our mind that India will not give up Kashmir. I said, why the doubt? He says the terrorists are saying, like India gave up on Pakistan, India will also give up on Kashmir. You remove this uncertainty and we will like to stay in India. We don't want to go to Pakistan. It's a hopeless place for us to stay. So it's a question of being able to enforce it. Bangladesh has sent 1/3 of its population into India. They have converted districts after districts into Muslim majority districts. Now we put up fences, then somebody pays money to the border guards and gets through. So what's the solution? The solution is to tell Bangladesh that we created Pakistan, out of which Bangladesh also emerged, on the grounds that those Muslims who do not want to live with Hindus should be given separate land. Now after you got the separate land, the Muslims have come back to live with Hindus. That means the principle on which we gave you land has been defeated. So since 1/3 of your population has come to India, either you give us 1/3 of your country or you take them back. Take your people back. And if you look at the Bangladesh map, there is a town called Sylhet, another town called Khulna. You draw a line and the land above it is 1/3. I asked the Indian Army chief one day whether he could. He said, yes, in 1 week you just walk across, provided you can ensure that it doesn't invoke the Chinese to come down. That, of course, is part of the diplomacy that we have to think. But ultimately, these are the kind of solutions we have to work on. We have to ensure that if the Hindus are attacked or your heritage is attacked, you will retaliate. I have already said in a number of places that if there is an alternative government of the NDA, and I'm part of it, I will work for seeing that based on what the Saudi Arabians have said, that Vrindavan, Kashi Vishwanath and Ram Janmabhoomi, the masjid there will be removed and built somewhere else, and these temples will be restored back to the original temples. And the same thing will go for Kashmir. So these are some of the ways of thinking by which you can define. You need that identity concept, then only can be clear. If you think in vague terms of Indian and a new republic and all, no. You must think of yourself as the ancient Indian tradition. You must be able to communicate with all your fellow men, for which Sanskrit is the best, because Sanskrit vocabulary, by the way, is there in every other language. Even the Sanskrit haters have to accept it. So Karunanidhi one day argued with me on Sanskrit. It's a foreign language. I said, then how come your name is Karunanidhi? Because Karuna and Nidhi are both Sanskrit words, You take out the dictionary of Tamil, you will find over 40% of the words are common to Sanskrit. So Sanskrit, 90% of the words in Kerala, Malayalam, 90% Bengali, they are Sanskrit words. And therefore, the vocabulary is already common to. So these are some of the commitments you have to make, and you living in this country can also do it. And you should see that you develop a value system which is not purely materialistic, but follows the Sanatan Dharma line. And in that you you decide to be a new Virat Hindu, not one of these Sattvic Hindus who speak goody-goody languages, you see. Okay, so this is broadly what I want to say. Thank you. Subramanian Swamy, Jindabad. Subramanian Swamy, Jindabad. Bharat Mata ki.
Yeah, if anyone have any questions for Swamiji, so Swamiji has about 15-20 minutes more. So if anyone have any questions, he can come here and ask Swamiji and he will be glad to respond to them.
I have a question. India is supposed to be a secular country, but religion is used to divide the country. So we have separate laws, and even the control of temples, or only Hindu temples, and especially the temples which are making money, are controlled by the government. And the temple property is considered like a public property for distribution to whosoever the politicians want. And it's not applied to any of the Islamic or Christian institutions. So why it cannot be challenged in the court that this thing is invalid, it is a discrimination which should not be there?
Yes, it's already been challenged, and the Supreme Court gave a very interesting reply. They said, we are not stopping you. We can't ask the government to pass a law. The law says, law is not discriminatory. The law says religious institutions which have engaged in financial irregularities, the financial administration can be taken over. Unfortunately, once the officer goes, then the pujari also gets scared and he also starts taking orders from him. There is no way a religious function of a temple can be interfered with. It's only the finances. The second thing is, I have pending in the Supreme Court a petition which should come up in July, August, which I am quite confident of winning, which says that it is not the job of the government to run temples. If there is financial mismanagement, yes, the government may take it over, but there should be a limited period, and I have suggested 3 years. Tirupati was taken over in 1933, and still the government is running it. Of course, they are siphoning off the money. In fact, when Y.S.R. Reddy, Y.S. Reddy was the chief minister, he was even building masjids with the help of money from Tirupati. So, Kerala, the same thing was happening. So, I say, if a temple is engaged in mismanagement of finances, then government takes it over, cleans it up, and after 3 years it returns it back to the trustees. And today there are 4.5 lakh temples in the whole country which are under government control. And I'm sure of winning it and having it restored. As far as the masjids and or the Muslim religious institutions and the Catholic institutions coming under government control, at least for a small period, because they are also mismanaging in a big way, that can be done by any government. The Supreme Court cannot intervene, cannot tell any government, make this law. They can, however, say that this can be done, and they have said that there is no bar to the government enacting law under the Constitution to regulate the finances of Muslim, Islamic and Christian institutions. So therefore, there is no point in now going to the court on this and challenging it.
It was so easy to change Article 370. Why did the NDA government use the power?
I was not in NDA government at that time. That you should ask them. I don't know. You ask them. You see, many things the NDA did, we need not go into it now. I'm talking about the future.
Yeah, we have a live webcast going on, so I have one question from Ankit Monga from California. He was asking that the recent intercolluder's report, they are saying that they want to have twin cities in Srinagar or in Kashmir. So what is your idea, or how do you think about that?
You see, if the present circumstances, the Kashmiri Pandits were to go back, they will have to live in a kind of prison-like situation. You see, they must be able to move as freely as the Muslims of Kashmir. For that, we have to have a different approach. I don't think that this, there was a time when psychologically the call for Panun Kashmir had a lot of appeal. But today the idea is to get back the whole of Kashmir, including that portion which is presently under the occupation of Pakistan. And you will get a chance, because now Pakistan's new Prime Minister and others, they are all nominees of the Taliban. And therefore, Taliban control of Pakistan is now going to come very shortly, which means there will be a war with India. That is the war you should prepare for, and that is the war which you can set right all these borders. And we already have today an appeal from Karzai in Afghanistan that please send Indian troops to Afghanistan. And if the government of India is intelligent enough to send it, then we can, from Afghanistan, Balochistan is next door, and we can play havoc with Pakistan. You know, there are lots of opportunities coming. History is full of opportunities. Never the Jews were what, demanding Israel from 1897. They only finally got it only in 1947. You see. So therefore, nobody should give any hope. The Kashmiri Pandits are the original inhabitants of Kashmir, and they should be restored to that position, and not to live like in a zoo, in a cage, or in a caged environment.
Next, India government, can we assume Modi, Narendra Modi as Prime Minister, Varna Gandhi as a Home Minister?
Rahul Gandhi. Varna Gandhi. But I can't talk about who will be the minister, but certainly almost everybody thinks that Modi should be projected as the Prime Minister. That there's not much dispute. Well, we are part of the NDA, and already people think that Modi and I are conspiring to take over the whole establishment.
Dr. Swamy has given one commitment, and I want to emphasize on that. He said on this stage that if NDA government comes to power, he will make sure that the Article 370 is taken out. And that is the first step towards Kashmiri going back to their homeland.
It's a very small demand, by the way. It's easy to implement also. Of course. I know. Well, Gandhi was there.
Thanks, Swamiji. I think, yeah, you want. And after this question, we will end, but we'll have one group picture with Swamiji, all of us here.
What is being done to prevent the conversion from Hindus to Christianity in eastern states of India?
Well, it's not an easy thing to do, but I must say RSS and Vishwa Hindu Parishad are voluntarily taking a lot of steps, not only to prevent it, but also to reconvert a lot of people who are very. There was a meeting of the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha of all the prominent sadhus of India, which I also attended, where it was a resolution was passed that what they call as the Ghar Vapsi program. That is, you know, if a Muslim reconverts to Hindu, it is not conversion, it is coming back that they were forcibly converted, which is against the law, and therefore they are coming back. So that these programs are going on, but ultimately the governments of the day are encouraging the conversion to Christianity and in some places even Islam. So therefore, we have a battle going, but if the Hindus can unite and vote, Hindus are 80%. We don't know the latest census figure. The last census figure put it at 83%, so I'm saying, all right, let it be 80%. Of half the Hindu population of India unites and votes for the sake of Hindus, then you will get absolute majority for the NDA. So therefore, this is in your hands, and what we can do, we will certainly be doing. But I think ultimately you need a government to put an effective end to this.
Will you make Sanskrit compulsory for all schools, colleges?
I think that is almost happening. Before making it Sanskrit compulsory, we should make it as an optional language, because Hindi will be the compulsory language, and mother tongue, and an international language, which is English. Most people would prefer English. And Sanskrit should be made as an optional language. You should give some incentives that those who learn Sanskrit will be given liberal scholarships for the program they are attending. Like that we can see, but slowly the convergence of Hindi and Sanskrit should take place. Yes, sir.
How the people who are living outside of country, and especially the youth, can change the structure of government next door? How we can help them?
Well, today they are saying that about 20% of the vote in the election is going to be decided by social media, and the youth of India abroad is playing a very active role in this. You see, because I myself do tweets, so I know what a lot of bright suggestions come from these people. So consequently, I think sitting here, you can certainly through the social media make a lot of difference. Second thing is that the preservation of heritage here that should take place. Because the American system is so good that if you are not careful, they will completely homogenize you, and you will then, you will disappear as a community. So for that, the thing I would advocate to you, the one thing that you should do is make people learn Sanskrit. You will see automatically it will generate a process by which people will become cognizant of their own cultures and preserve it. Sanskrit has that power.
What can we do from here as an NRI to support you win the election?
No, your good wishes are there. There are temples you can go and pray. But I think we are well looked after. I can do one thing. Recently the NRIs got together, and I wanted Mr. Rahul Gandhi claimed that he had got a degree from University of Cambridge. And I found when I went there, his name is not there in any register. Now they're claiming that he got the degree in a false name for security reasons, called Rahul Vinci. So I'm having that investigated. I needed some money for that, and the NRIs gave it. So similarly, Rollins College in your Florida, Winter Park, Rahul Gandhi was there for some time. If you can find out from there who paid his tuition fees from which bank, I'm told it was paid from a secret account in Cayman Island. If that you can get, I can send him home after that. These are the kinds of things where you can help, because this is vital information, and it is against the Constitution.
Dr. Swamy, I know 1978 you were having a mission with China about getting back our land, and
yeah.
You're quite successful. You made a lot of friends in the Chinese.
Yeah. Yes, I'm still friends with them. They've invited me on 27th, 28th of June.
We are so close of coming to a conclusion.
Yeah, that's right.
But our government, for some reason, we don't even look towards China. We are so scared about something like looking recently at the Ladakh incident,
Yes.
our 80% or 90% of our policies and our foreign policy, defense policy is just to contain Pakistan and nothing we do about the China and not China-centric policy. So, will you emphasize that should it be more about a China-centric? Pakistan is not a big problem. Like, if you are well prepared for China, then Pakistan can be taken over any day.
Yeah, sure. I'm not too paid. See, first thing you must do is make a distinction between foreign policy and defense policy. Defense policy has to be based on the capacity of your opponent. And if he's built a huge military machine, you must also match it, irrespective of whether you're friends with them or not. So that's only looking at capacity. Foreign policy, you look at the intention of the other side. If the other side wants to be friendly with you, then you respond. So what Jawaharlal Nehru's mistake was that the Chinese professed to be friendly to you, so he didn't develop the defense at all and sent our troops on tennis shoes and on cold rations and things like that. So never let down on the defense preparedness. And I'm telling you, China is not all that strong because they have to come through the whole of Tibet. It's a long supply line. And if you have a strong air force, China will not be able to support these. This time also, our media did too much scaremongering. But ultimately, how many soldiers came? 40. We surrounded them. Why they came, that's a different matter. That's what is the matter of worry. Why they did this. But they were no threat. There was 40 were surrounded by people, and then having surrounded them, then question is how to kill time. So the Chinese soldiers requested our soldiers to sing Hindi film songs, which our soldiers sang for them, you see, and played them. So there is a problem going on in China between the People's Liberation Army, the defense forces, and the political forces, because so far the political forces have kept the defense under control. Now the defense has become very powerful. They have got a lot of new weapons, and because of prosperity of China. So they are asserting. So we have got to see how to play this carefully. And need not run into a confrontation with China. In fact, China today is very much concerned, is discussing with us the fact that terrorists from Pakistan are going to Xinjiang and creating trouble. So it's possible in the future that the Chinese may be on the same side as you as regard Pakistan. So we have got to play this carefully, but at the same time we should not let our guard down. Yes, sir.
Very simple question to you, Doctor. How we can thank you for this enlightening talk?
How can we?
Thank you.
Thank me. Don't worry. I'm doing this for the God. I'm not doing it for anybody, so nobody need to give me thank me.
Yeah, we have very less time, but one last question.
Doctor, are we doing anything against Akbaruddin Owaisi for the comments that he made against Hinduism?
I think he's in jail, no?
No, he's out.
He's come out on bail.
He's on bail.
Is he?
Is the case going on?
Yeah, case is going on. No, don't worry. He's also become silent, and he has a lot of other problems now. He has a serious health problem.
On the same show, what is being done for Shafiqul Rahman?
Who's he?
He walked out of parliament when the Vande Mataram was being sung.
Oh, him.
Yes.
You want me to worry about those things? I will make him walk out of the country if we have. I don't know whether Muslims support him. No. See, there are lots of Muslims. Now, I'm not the one who says terrorists are no religion and all that. It's all bakwas. I don't believe in that. Certainly that religion promotes this kind of activity. But a large number of Muslims in India now know, and I will say Muslims in Pakistan, now the intellectuals of Pakistan are openly speaking that very soon we may have to come as refugees to India. You see, because the Taliban will finish them. So I think, you see, He has been condemned and no one has come to his defense. I have not seen any prominent Muslim leader saying that he did the right thing. And let me tell you that Vande Mataram, only 4 stanzas are sung in Parliament. And furthermore, it was adopted by the Constituent Assembly as an alternative national song. Four stanzas of 4 verses of the portion about Durga and all comes in the later. The first 4 there is nothing. So that the Muslims voted for it in the Constituent Assembly. So what he did is we can't prosecute him because this is an act inside Parliament. But whether a resolution should be passed unseating him, that remind me by email in July, and I'll see what can be done.